And I didn't hear that. All I heard is that I'm hungry. I was feeling hungry because if I'm not nourished. So here again, I'll repeat. The most popular weight loss diets, the diets that they spend millions in promoting, when we looked at them and analyzed them, they're lacking vital nutrients that do not shut off the voice in the brain, but actually turn it on and say, keep eating. Now, how can you justify that? It's an impossible thing to. A raw food diet is demonstrated in scientific studies, a consistent, always ability to shed more pounds and keep those pounds off in long term than other diets that have been studied. Inversely, what's really interesting to me is we have thin people come here, and often I have conversations several times a year. Well, when I'm eating healthy food, I lose weight. What's amazing is on average, during the program here, a very thin person gains between 3.5 and 4.5 pounds. Women, a little more than the men. And this is really what we've seen, I've seen over the 53 years that I've done this. And so when you nourish the body, again, the body starts to get the right message and says, oh, this woman, this man is finally interested in me. They're finally giving me what I've been screaming for decades. And this is why a raw diet, which isn't processed, isn't cooked, isn't chemicalized, isn't preserved, is completely organic, basically has all those nutrients in it. Is anyone out there silly enough to think when you cook something, it still has all the elements before you cooked it? That's fundamentally silly to even consider. You even have other people telling you that you have to cook food to get nutrients out of it. Well, all I know is basic science tells me when I cook something, I kill it, that there's little to nothing left in it. And this institute represents this fact better than any scientific organization in the history of science. We've been taking very ill people and very smart people, because people come here before they're sick. They don't want to age. They don't want to suffer. They don't want to go down the path that everyone else, the ducklings, are going down because they're going along with the program. And we literally watch what happens clinically with blood profiles, with our medical team, clinically, over the period of time they're here with us. And what we see across the board is improvements in all of the blood profile, nutrient loads, et cetera. And this results, I've seen in thousands of cases of people bringing about their own recovery, because you're a self-healer. Nobody heals you. This is why we've got to get rid of self-care and make the step up to self-healing. Because self-care still means come to me, pay me, I heal you. No. The new mantra is I come to me, I find me, I heal me. Much nicer. Now, you may need a little help along the way, but you're the one that ultimately does it. Always have, always will, and any other story is abstract. How your diet and gut works together. Last year on The Real Truth, I presented the latest data on the microbiome. And you have 3 families within the microbiome, and the science is in now, the data's in. The natural food for them is raw plant-based foods. Greens being the most because of the high cellulose. And when we look at what happens when you feed the body raw, green, organic, plant-based foods, they actually create more healthy bacteria in the intestinal flora. Now, why is this important? Your entire existence, life, reality depends upon it. I'll say it again. Your life, your existence, your reality, the way you think, depends upon it. Because we're very clear now in mainstream science, as we've been preaching forever, that it's your bacteria, healthy bacteria in your intestinal tract, that propels healthy immune system cells, the army that protects you from disease and premature aging, and neuron brain cells that protect you from psychological concerns and disorder. 90% of that happens because of healthy gut flora. Now think about that. What is a food once again? This is unquestionable, by the way. Undebatable is raw plant-based food. Because once you basically cook the food, it is a soup of lifeless cellulose that doesn't have the ability to have the enzymes, the phytochemicals, and the nutrient loads, micronutrient loads in it to actually grow and develop more and more and more and more and greater and stronger healthy flora, bacteria. So these findings are so important. Your gut health will determine your body's well-being, your body health. Your diet is so crucial for your psyche, so crucial. Now we know this. I recall as a boy, we would often have parties. We'd overeat and eat cake and hot dogs and ice cream and God knows all of this soda. And I'd always feel bad the next day. You'd have fun at the time the event was occurring. Your family was there, your friends were there. Maybe it was a holiday, maybe it was a picnic, but I knew I'd pay for it. Even as a child, I knew I'd pay for it. I'd feel sick, weak, almost like you have a hangover, because you do have a hangover. It's a toxic overload hangover from stuff they tell you is food that has nothing to do with food, doesn't satiate your body, and by the way, bombs the gut and destroys the healthy bacteria that creates a balanced brain and a balanced immune system. So serotonin is what that's about in your brain. And my God, is this important. Now, if you go today to school, I talked to a young guy who's at the same medical school my son is at, in the top school in Europe, Karolinska, who's in a psychiatric education. And I said, have they told you anything about serotonin? He said, oh yes, it's manufactured in the brain. And I didn't say anything to him. I just backed up because, I don't want to challenge this young man who's otherwise getting a great education, I seem to think. But how could this be? How could it be that the entire world of science and anatomy and biology and biochemistry today clearly understands that 90% of the serotonin, the happy juice as we call it, comes from the gut. And here at the top school in Europe, why that's a great school is every one of the teachers are practicing doctors. They're not academics who have been sitting around talking about philosophy for decades. These are people out doing surgery and working in their specialty and then coming into the students and teaching them. The students go in and practice in this setting. How could this school, of all schools I can think about, still be teaching antiquated information? This is why the so-called healthcare system today globally is in peril. This is why the healthcare system today in the United States and most of the developed countries is a formidable killer. One of the top 3 killers now is modern medicine. High fiber plant-based diet with plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grain, and legumes. Now, when we talk about whole grains and legumes, needless to say, we want you to germinate them. Now you unlock the goodness, allow them to digest dynamically better and more than they would if you just ate them without sprouting them. And you liberate and on average create about 8 times more nutrients by spending 2 to 5 minutes throwing the grain into water, next morning getting up, pour it out, rinse it. That afternoon, you basically can take the sprouted grain, 8 times more nutrients. In that case, a grain is probably 20 to 30 times more digestible, or a legume, a bean, the same thing. Now, certain helpful microbes break down fibers in the short chain fatty acid, which have been shown to stimulate immune cell activity. Now, how about that business? So now you have a whole group of people out there telling you how bad oil is, and oh my God, oil's the worst thing in the world. And we have this current evidence. This is Harvard School of Public Health, by the way. This is not the backwoods school of public ignorance, Harvard School of Public Health. As they be saying, you want to get your immune system stimulated. Now, why do you want that? To fight the virus, to fight the bacteria, to fight the mold, the yeast, the fungus, the air pollution, unfortunately, the water pollution.